if we win California, and if we win South Dakota, and North Dakota, and Montana, and New Mexico, and New Jersey, well, I think we will be, and following week, do well in Washington, D.C. I think we will be marching into the Democratic convention with an enormous amount of momentum.
Well, Bernie Sanders wasn't yelling like Howard Dean was in Iowa, but he was listing the states he wants to and believes he can win. This as a new poll comes out tonight in California that essentially puts him tied with Hillary Clinton in California. This is the case he's making, is that he's better positioned against Donald Trump. A Quinnipiac poll backs that up in the head-to-head, Clinton versus Trump and Sanders versus Trump. But in that same poll, Clinton is up by 13 points over Sanders nationally, and she is 71 delegates short of getting the Democratic nomination because of superdelegates. We'll start there on politics. Let's bring in our panel. Tucker Carlson, host of Fox and Friends Weekend. Charles Lane, opinion writer for The Washington Post, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Okay, Tucker, you heard Bernie Sanders there, and he's making the pitch to California.
Well, I think he's going to march into the Democratic convention in Philadelphia with momentum no matter what happens in the subsequent 6 or 7 states. I mean, the truth is, he is as unlikely a candidate, really, as Donald Trump. He is without charm, he's elderly, he's running an economic program that's 80 years old and has been proven not to work, and yet he is drawing crowds of people who know for a certainty that he's not going to win, and they're coming out anyway. What does that tell you? It tells you the power of running on something in contrast to the sort of tepid identity politics campaign his opponent is running. He is running on something that's actually resonating, and he is going to extract eye teeth at that convention. There's no question about that.
All right, Chuck. It's the realism of trying to convince people that, in fact, he can still win the nomination.
Well, I think he is making an additional pitch, which is, as you referred to, those polls that show him beating Trump. And that's been a consistent finding in those polls going back several months now. And he's saying, in a weird way, I'm the more realistic candidate, in a way, because I'm the one who would have an easier time beating Trump. Now, obviously, it isn't that realistic because there are the superdelegates and so on standing in his way. I guess his end game goes something like this. I come in as close as I possibly can to the number into the convention, and between now and then something develops, maybe regarding the emails, that causes the party to need to look for somebody else, and I'll be standing there and it'll fall into my lap.
Meantime, there's another person that's really anxious to be out campaigning, and that is the president, who talked about Donald Trump not by name, but by policy issues and also a certain network.
So their basic story is America's working class, America's middle class, families like yours have been victimized by a big, bloated federal government run by a bunch of left-wing elitists like me. I'm being serious here. I mean, that's the story that's been told. And I haven't, turned on Fox News or listened to conservative talk radio yet today, but I've turned them on enough over these past 7.5 years to know I'm not exaggerating in terms of their story.
President Obama in Indiana today.
Look, he's making it sound as if this idea of the big, bloated federal government run by left-wing elitists is some kind of Fox News fantasy. How about Exhibit A, Obamacare? Jonathan Gruber and all the others who foisted upon the United States elitists, pointy-headed intellectuals, who designed a program that is collapsing of its own weight, is costing enormous amounts of money, having a terrible effect on the on the medical profession, and I think will be gone one way or the other in several years. This is a perfect example of left-wing hyperliberalism. Obama brought into office this idea that government can and should try and do everything, thwarted by Democrats who stopped the cap and trade, who stopped a lot of other measures Obama would have liked to do. This is exactly what his government has done, and it has given us a very weak economy, and all the anxiety that everyone is acknowledging is what the candidates are running on. Sanders, Trump, all the others, as a result of a weak economy, a terrible recovery, and people who have a sense that they are being squeezed. The irony is it's the Democratic candidates themselves who make the case against the big government because of the results of what Obama has wrought and how it's affected the electorate.
Chuck, you can see that almost every speech now, the president is anxious to get in this game, the 2016 game. He has been prevented from doing that, essentially, from this race continuing on the Democratic side. But it looks like he's just going anyway.
There's a big kind of irony involved here, which is that the implication of the whole Bernie Sanders campaign, by implication, says the last 8 years accomplished nothing. We're not sufficient. We're not progressive enough. And by associating Hillary with that, he's accusing her of being a fake progressive. So part of what Obama is doing, also by implication, is shoring up Hillary, I think. And interestingly, I think his numbers are good right now. His favorability rating is up over 51%.
President Obama's at 51, yeah.
Yeah, and I think he is crying vindication right now. That's what that speech you just did was all about. It's sort of like, hey, I'm supposed to be so terrible. If so, why am I so popular?
All right, meantime, the Democratic presumptive nominee, we should point out she's on her way probably to these delegates, was out talking about Trump University today.
Every day we learn more about Donald Trump. Just yesterday we learned the truth about Donald Trump's big talk about helping veterans. It turns out it wasn't until the press shamed him that he actually made the donations he had promised. Well, today we're learning about another scam, the so-called Trump University. He is trying to scam America the way he scammed all those people at Trump U.
Trump U. Okay, Hope Hicks with the Trump campaign put out a statement. The court's order unsealing documents has no bearing on the merits of the Trump University case. Much of the unsealed evidence, including declarations and surveys from former Trump University students, demonstrates the high level of satisfaction from students in that Trump University taught valuable real estate information. Trump University looks forward to using this evidence, along with much more, to win when the case is brought before a jury. Does this have legs, Tucker, and what about this whole dust-up?
Well, I mean, of course Trump University isn't wholly legitimate. Would you send your kids there? I mean, I don't think there's a single person who thinks, Trump U, you know, I hope my children graduate from Trump U. People knew that going in at the beginning. They know it now. But by the way, is it much more of a scam than, say, Princeton? I don't know. That's open to debate. But yeah, sure. Will it change the mind of a single voter? Is there any person who said, no, I might vote Trump. Oh, Trump U wasn't on the level? That's it. I'm voting Hillary. Probably not. I mean, we've seen for the past year Trump getting a pass on these issues. People know who he is, and they're supporting him anyway for reasons that have nothing to do with the details of his biography.
Meantime, on the Republican side, you get a lot of pushback saying, you know, where are the investigations into the Clinton Foundation? Where is the, you know, other shoe to drop with all of the things that they're involved in? Now we're hearing tonight that Brian Pagliano, the IT specialist, is going to plead the fifth in the email investigation. Is there a tit-for-tat here that is equal when it comes to problems for both candidates?
Look, there's always been a double standard with Trump, for Trump. It'll happen after Trump, where the investigative zeal always is whetted in the press if it has to do with Republicans. In the first line of every story, it'll say XX, a Republican. If it's a Democrat, it'll be in paragraph 18. That is well known. But I think with Hillary, the reason I think that people are holding back right now is because it's in the hands of the FBI. We're going to have an explosion one way or the other of information on this, and we're going to know by people who have subpoena power, 120 supposedly FBI agents. This is going to come out one way or the other.